Thanks, Rick. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Unitarian Church in New Bedford. I am Karen LeBlanc, and I minister to this congregation as we minister to each other. We are a beloved community of people who believe that everyone is worthy of respect, that science is real, that the democratic process is a sacred thing, that we are all part of an interconnected web, and that the light and energy we share and put out here makes a difference in this world. We are people of purpose, and if what you hear today resonates with you, we hope you might consider becoming part of this way cool family of seekers and keepers of this long dream. If you are new here, you can fill out one of these blue cards, and that will get you on our mailing list. You can request a meeting or any other little thing. A couple other little housekeeping things. Please keep your masks on while you're in service. Maintain your distance. There are stations at the back and the front. Hi, little Edward. For hand sanitizing. Let's see, flowers for Easter next week. As you see, we already have some here, but you are still happy to order some through the office. There is also an order form in your order of service and at the front and the back of the sanctuary. Poetry service on the 24th, our annual poetry service. Instead of our Feed Your Soul Sunday this month, we will be having our poetry service, and I'm looking forward to that. Let's see, we do stream live here at First Unitarian, so please be aware if you're going to share something at Joys and Concerns that we are live. And please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Now, if you'll please put your phones in worship mode, we will begin by lighting our chalice. Our guest speaker today, Whyte Burrell, will light that chalice for us. We light our chalice today for Martha Bailey Briggs, whose life was a testament to the leadership that African American women provided in the field of education during the 19th century, and for the women who came after her who have continued her tradition of excellence, especially Ketanji Brown Jackson, who lit a fire in my soul this week as we watched her confirmed by the Supreme Court to be a justice. Oh. Our opening words this morning are from Gordon McKeeman. We summon ourselves from the demands and delights of the daily round, from dirty dishes and unwaxed floors, from unmowed grass and untrimmed bushes, from all incompleteness and not yet startedness, from the unholy and the unresolved. We summon ourselves to attain to our vision of peace and of justice, of cleanliness and health, of delight and devotion, of the lovely and the holy, of who we are and what we can do. We summon the power of tradition and the exhilaration of newness, the wisdom of the ages and the knowing of the very young. We summon beauty, eloquence, poetry, and music to be the bearers of our dreams. We would open our eyes, our ears, our minds, our hearts to the amplest dimensions of life. We rejoice in manifold promises and possibilities. Let us worship together. Now, our opening hymn, despite the fact that it says number 44 in your order of service, is actually number 298. 298, Wake Now My Senses. We'll do 3 verses, Randy. Please rise if you're willing and able. time to say good morning to one another. Yes, welcome back to Pam and Brownie, who have been nice and warm, lo these cold months. No, it's good. I know, everywhere's cold. And now, while you're still standing, let us read the unison reading of our covenant, which is printed in your order of service. We come together as a religious community, upholding freedom of conscience, right relationship, and the inherent worth of all people. We value our diversity and pledge to care for one another in the spirit of compassion, to speak and listen to each other with respect, and to promote justice and kindness in the world. Edward, you're too cute. I can't even stand it. Stop it. Your cuteness goes up to 11. Please be seated, and we have our story for all ages from Miss Yasmin.
Hine ma tovu manayim shevetahim gam yachad. That basically says how wonderful it is that we are all here together in peace. We are getting ready around the world to celebrate Passover, which is also aligning with Easter this year. So if you don't know about me, I used to be at the synagogue for almost 13 years. My grandmother is a Ukrainian Jew, which makes my mother Jewish, which makes me Jewish. I only say I'm really Jewish because I grew up with the best friend who was Jewish going to temple, so I learned through her. But being that, I thought, let's just go quickly through a little bit of the Passover preparations that are occurring all over the world. So the first thing is the Haggadah. Now, when I first learned about the Seder, I thought, wow, a religion that actually makes you drink. And when I started inviting my friends, they were like, oh, so this is what it's like going to synagogue? I said, yeah, this is cool. So we are a people of awakening. Spring is here, the trees are growing new leaves, flowers are blooming, and spring means Passover, and we say Pesach. Everyone in the family gets ready. There's a tradition where you take a candle and a spoon and a feather, and you go the evening before the holiday and you look for chametz, which is leavening, because you want to free your whole house of any leavening products for this holiday, because obviously that's part of the story. And so we're going to go forward with that. So after, in the Jewish family, they search for all the crumbs, we now prepare the Passover foods, which is what we're going to do a little bit today in Sunday school. So it lasts for a whole week, 7 days. And we have a Seder, which in Hebrew means order. And we tell a story through order. The first thing you would do is light the candles. And here are my little candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotah lahad l'kner. And then, of course, in the Jewish religion, the wine is another Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher porei peri hagafen. So you would recite that because it's saying thank you for the fruit of the wine. It is so sweet. And thank you for the holiday lights to be together with our family. This religion is rooted in nature, and it is also part of the Unitarian sources. We draw our wisdom from both the Christianity and the Judaism aspects. So next we have our Seder plate, which is fun, and we're going to be doing a little bit of that in Sunday school. We have parsley. We have the bitter herbs to represent the tears. We have a lamb bone, but if you're vegetarian like me, we do a yam instead of a bone. And then haroset to represent the mortar of the pyramids. So, now what's great about the Passover aspects is you sing and ask questions to sort of represent the various characteristics of people at a table. And you ask something and it is sung like, Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mecho halelot. And then you go through 4 questions and it takes a while. And so you have pillows at the table because they want you to lounge and relax as you go through this whole celebration. So now the story comes over, right? So there's Pharaoh, this guy, this king of Egypt, who's like mean and telling everyone what to do, bossing them around. And the Jewish people are like, no, that's not going to work for us. We're not feeling it. So then Moses, we have little Moses. Where's my Moses? So Moses floats down the river and is found by, lo and behold, the daughter of Pharaoh. And so she's like, oh, we're going to bring the baby home. And then Moses' real sister is like, oh, do you happen to need a nurse? Because I could help you take care of the baby. They don't know that they're actually related. So that's how Moses ends up growing up in this family. So then all of a sudden there's a part of the story. How many of you have heard about the burning bush? Moses gets this sort of vision. God says, you must go take care of your sheep. He sees the burning bush. God says, go, free the Jewish slaves and take them away. And so that's what he says. He says, let my people go. Now, this is where we're going to end the story because we were going to go into the 10 plagues. And in the past, we've had Passover here, and we've gone through the plagues with the children. And so we're going to end here, and we're going to do the plagues in Sunday school and talk about the different aspects of our Seder plate. So, with that being said, and we have not a lot of children today, but we still have some, we are going to make our way to Sunday school and talk about the traditions of Passover. And then we hope to see everyone at the Earth Eve Parade on Thursday, and I'm hoping you can all join us to march for We Are Water Protectors for Almanite.
The words to send the kids off are in the order of service. Let's say them together. May words I say be kind and true. May love be a guide in all I do. May kindness sing within my heart, and may peace be with us while we're apart. Now is the time in our service where we share with each other our joys and our concerns. If you have something you'd like to share, please come on up. I will light the candle for you and tell us what you would like to share. But first, let us light a candle for our Jewish friends who will be celebrating Passover next week, and for our Muslim friends who are amid the holy month of Ramadan. I also want to light a candle. Or do you have something you'd like to say? Please. Go right ahead. I'm going to light it for you.
I'd like one candle lit for, I will say for love and family especially. I love to be here in this wonderful space with this wonderful community. I hold you all so dearly in my heart. Also today, one aspect of love in my life is that I'll be dashing out the door to go to my granddaughter's 5th birthday, Leonora Jamila, who is named for my mother and my daughter of Peter, who some of you know. So I'll be dashing off to her birthday party. Thank you.
Hi, Alan Powers. I just wanted to remember, I don't know if anybody else was here, but I am no Bobby Green. Bobby Green was a saxophonist and composer who played for the funeral of a good friend of mine who was Linda's husband, Jim Totley, the sculptor. If you go down to the library and look at, there's two sculptures there related to whaling. The one to the man who invented the point that was used in whaling, was an African American, is by Jim Totley. Anyways, I have fond memories of Bobby Green, a great musician. I'm okay, but thank you.
Thanks for playing for us today. And I have a special little candle today. We all remember, I'm sure, our prior administrator, Linda Fredette, who was with us for about 12 years. She was voted as the town clerk for Fairhaven and is now in that position permanently. So hooray for Linda. I brought her, so I'll bring her some flowers this week to say congratulations from our congregation, because I know she'd appreciate that. And I will light 2 final candles. Oh, wait, one more. Please pray for my dog, Quill. He's not doing too great. When we were at our meeting yesterday, I was back and forth on the phone because he was not feeling well. So good old Quill, he's 11. And I will light 2 final candles for all the joys and sorrows that we keep in our hearts today, and for all of those who have yet to find a nice place like this and good people like these to share their joys and their sorrows with. And I want to introduce our guest speaker today, Linda Whyte Burrell. She has been a member of this congregation for 42 years and a member of the Martha Briggs Educational Club for 41 years, we believe, somewhere thereabouts. So I would like to welcome Linda Whyte Burrell. Thank you for speaking today.
Good morning. The trouble pinning down how long I've been a member of both organizations is I just know that they're around the time of our son Peter's birth. And so that's how I keep track of some things in my life. For a reading this morning, I'm going to read from our hymnal from Marge Percy. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who stand in the line and haul in their places, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but more in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud, botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
Let us enter now into the spirit of prayer and meditation. Take a few deep breaths with me. Center yourselves. First part of this prayer is from Frederick Gillis. Spirit of community, in which we share and find strength and common purpose. We turn our minds and hearts toward one another, seeking to bring into our circle of concern all who need our love and support. Those who are ill, those who are in pain, either in body or spirit, those who are lonely, those who have been wronged, those who are at war. We are part of a web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. We are grateful for the miracle of consciousness that we share, the consciousness that gives us the power to remember and to love and to care for one another. Amen. And I want to read this short piece from W.E.B. Du Bois. Now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed time. Now are the hours of work, and tomorrow comes the harvest and the playtime. Amen to that. And I will hand the rest of this over to Linda.
Thank you for that reading from Du Bois. It's one of my favorites in our hymnal, one I've read at the beginning of meetings at our Unitarian Church in Rhode Island. And it certainly speaks to my message today about the work of women's clubs. I'll read first the mission statement of the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs. The National Association of Colored Women's Clubs are women of color dedicated to uplifting women, children, families, the home, and community through service, community education, scholarship assistance, and the promotion of racial harmony among all people, so that those we serve are better able to take their proper and rightful place in society as citizens, community leaders, parents, and family members. And will we now sing hymn 207? If you don't want to, that's fine, because listen. Would you like to play that now? And we'll not sing the second hymn, okay? No, that's all right. We're kind of, unless you want me to read one sentence of my sermon, let's cut out some music. Thank you. And now offertory words. Okay. I can wing it.
Now is the time in our service where we ask you for your kind donations toward the good works of this church. Keep an eye out for your pledge cards. Those should be in the mail very soon. And we sure thank you.
In this beloved community, one reads in the newsletter and on the church calendar that they are coming again. Spring, Lent, plants around the pulpit, and the Martha Briggs tea. We all celebrate the return of spring. Probably few in this congregation mark Lent in any significant way. Several kind people deck the hall with these beautiful potted plants, and many members and friends here probably wonder, who are these women and what exactly do they do? For many years, the Martha Briggs Educational Club has held its Lenten tea in this building. A program is usually held here in the sanctuary. The program usually includes a musical or spoken entertainment or two, and a keynote speaker flanked by an invocation and a benediction. Today's program promises to have additional entertainment by various participants, making up for the lack of tea and finger sandwiches because of COVID protocols and safety. After the program and before COVID, the tea would have been poured from silver servers, punch ladled from a pedestaled punch bowl, finger sandwiches and tiny desserts eaten at tables, all in the parish house. Finery always abounds at Martha Briggs Teas, from the First Unitarian Church cups and saucers and layers of tablecloths to the flowery arrangements and hats. Why is the Martha Briggs Club Lenten Tea held at First Unitarian Church? Blessedly, the tea got too big. The Martha Briggs Club is the owner of the Sergeant William H. Carney home at 128 Mill Street. It is designated a National Historic Site. You all probably know that Sergeant Carney was the first African American to be awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for his bravery during the American Civil War. There is an elementary school a few blocks from here named for Sergeant Carney. The Carney home was purchased by the Martha Briggs Educational Club in 1939 through the financial assistance provided by Mrs. Elizabeth Carter Brooks, for whom another elementary school in New Bedford was named in 1957. Born in New Bedford in 1867, Miss Elizabeth Carter was an educator, social activist, and architect trained at the Swain Free School of Design. Her social activism included the building, design, and establishment of the New Bedford Home for the Aged, which was the first organized home for the elderly in New Bedford. While the Carney home is an historic treasure, it only accommodates small gatherings and events, thus the move to the First Unitarian Church for our annual Lenten tea. The two buildings are only a few blocks apart, and as a member of both organizations, I was part of facilitating that connection. I will mention that the club rooms, which include a full kitchen and a powder room, is available for small events such as meetings and parties. For long decades, that small venue did serve for lovely teas. At the inception of the Lenten tea tradition in the late 1940s, there were teas on each of the 5 or 6 Sundays during Lent. The club members were wonderful cooks and bakers. Some were even caterers. My own childhood memories from the 1950s are of finger sandwiches made with bread in pastel colors, and petit fours frosted and decorated with tiny flowers. The club rooms were full of ladies dressed to the nines and wearing hats. So that explains why the teas are held in this facility. But how and why did this club form? The first gathering of women interested in forming this club met on Tuesday evening, May 6th in 1920, in the home of Mrs. Jenny Lee, who was elected the first president of the club at the second meeting. There were 19 women in attendance, with another 7 named as willing to assist in the object of the organizations. The object or goal of these women was, from the minutes of that meeting, to form a student aid fund for students wishing to go on to higher learning. My grandmother, Mrs. Clara Kidd, and my great aunt, Mrs. Gertrude King, were at that first meeting. My aunt, Miss Vivian Kidd, served as recording secretary for several years, and her sister, my mother, Mrs. Leonora Whyte, was an active member for nearly 70 years. Thus, my sister, Mrs. Yvonne Drayton, and I are the 3rd generation of our family to be involved in the club. Back in 1896, Black women representing 2 national organizations met in Washington, D.C. Recognizing the redundancy of 2 very similar organizations, they unified to create the National Association of Colored Women, the NACW. This organization had in part the same goal which the founders of the Martha Briggs Club adopted in 1920, aiding in education costs for Black people. Much of their heightened energy in 1896 was generated by an extremely vicious and racist newspaper article in which Black women and their intellect and moral character were vilified. These women focused their energy on demonstrating the fallacy of this offensive article. After the end of slavery, there was a great deal of work among Black people to improve themselves and others. There was a strong drive to achieve good, independent lives, especially through education. Many organizations were formed to this end. The Prince Hall Freemasons obtained the American Charter to join that international fraternal organization. The Odd Fellows, Elks, and other groups, as well as the churches, worked to better the lives of people formerly enslaved. The National Association of Colored Women adopted as their slogan, "Lifting as we climb." During this period of U.S. history, Black women also worked for the right to vote. Black men were able to vote after the 15th Amendment extended the right to men of all races. Like white women, Black women actively sought this right for themselves. Sadly, white women often intentionally excluded Black women from many of their meetings, events, and parades. If Black women were allowed in a parade, they were forced to march apart from white women. Many white women did not want issues of race and slavery to distract from the issues of voting rights. One of the founders of the NACW, Mrs. Josephine St. Pierre Ruffin of Boston, was an active suffragist. She was a leader in establishing the NACW, having been particularly offended by that vicious, racist newspaper article. She was a graduate of Bowdoin College, published the first newspaper for African American women, and was a participant in the formation of the American Women's Suffrage Association, which was predominantly white women and men. A second founder of NACW was Mrs. Mary Church Terrell. While her parents had once been enslaved, her father became a wealthy businessman. She attended Oberlin College and studied in Europe. She too was active in the American Women's Suffrage Association and was the first president of the National Association of Colored Women. Two other founders were Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth. Another was Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, who was in the AME Church early in her life, as was I, and she too later became a Unitarian. In 1904, the National Association of Colored Women added the word clubs to its name, as more and more clubs were forming around the country, most working for the education and betterment of the race. The NACWC serves to this day as the umbrella organization of several state and regional clubs of colored women. The Martha Briggs Club belongs to the Massachusetts State Union of Colored Women, the Northeastern Federation of Colored Women's Clubs, as well as the national organization. The club also belongs to the New Bedford Council of Women's Organizations, the Women's Alliance of First Unitarian Church, too, is a member of the New Bedford Council. The current president and recording secretary of the New Bedford Council, Mrs. Toni Texera and Mrs. Mary Ann Rogers, are members of Martha Briggs Club. The current president of the Mass State Union is Ms. Jan De Silva of the Martha Briggs Club. Over a 100-year history, members of Martha Briggs Club have held positions in all levels of all of these organizations. New Bedford's own Elizabeth Carter Brooks was the 4th president of the National Association. What does the Martha Briggs Club do? Social activism and charitable works are often performed by the club. A brief list of local action would include visits and gifts to nursing home residents and other shut-ins. The club provides educational supplies to school children, participates in clothing and food drives, and offers cultural and historical activities in the club rooms and in schools. Fundraising activities over the 100-plus years have included activities as diverse as bake sales, dinners, dances, raffles, bus trips to theaters in New York City and Boston, banquets and concerts. Cotillions and botillions have been given a few times to give teens the experience of a fancy dress ball in their honor. In early years, the members gave whist parties, book reports, lawn parties, poetry readings, and from the minutes of the 1920s, a very pretty dancing party for recent high school graduates. And once, a gramophone solo of The Birth of Moses by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Before COVID, the more recent celebrations of scholarship recipients and their families has been a reception in the club rooms. While some fundraising goes toward charitable giving to community causes, the maintenance of the Kearney home has been one of 2 major focuses. An old building, as you know, is in constant need of work. Its historic value is held in the hearts of all members. One dream of this particular member of the club is for the club to one day take ownership of Martha Briggs' own home, which is on Allen Street, just east of Orchard Street. The second major focus of the club, the primary focus of the club, is aiding in the funding of higher education for young people of color. The first 10 awards, starting in 1924, were in fact loans. The very first loan was made to Miss Jane C. Joseph, who went on to graduate from Wilberforce University in Ohio. She later married, becoming Mrs. Jane C. Waters, and was the mother of 3 educators, one of whom, Dr. Herbert Waters, was principal of Kearney Academy. Mrs. Waters, too, had a long career as an educator, and a scholarship in her memory is administered by the club. After those early loans were repaid, the club made the decision to give out scholarships. As of June 2021, 229 scholarships have been awarded by the Martha Briggs Educational Club. The children and grandchildren of club members cannot receive the scholarship, but rather are presented book awards to help with their education expenses. The women of the Martha Briggs Educational Club do a lot of work for the club. Most also have their fingers in many other pies. Most are very active members of several of the churches in the greater New Bedford area. Various charitable organizations, the YW, Your Theater, the Women's Foundation, and the New Bedford Historical Society are some of the other things that I know members of the club support. There are other things that my club sisters do that I do not know. I do speculate that one member apparently does not sleep, because there's no way that she does all of the community and family things that I hear about and has time to sleep too. To this day, there is no credibility in that hateful, racist article penned in the late 19th century. We, in particular, continue to work for the betterment and education of young people of color who wish to further their educations. You've all probably been struck by my usage of the titles Mrs., Ms., and Miss as I've spoken of my club sisters. It is how we roll. Because our ancestors endured the humiliation of being stripped of their names, Black people continue today to take seriously and respectfully ways of being addressed. We don't warmly embrace the idea of children calling adults by their first names. My own children, Peter, Jamila, and Gordon, at 42 and 44 and 52 years of age, still speak of you in this sanctuary as Mrs., Mr., or Ms., followed by your last names, with the exception of Aunt Thelma, who is Peter's godmother. And so it is in the world of Black club women. When one old school club sister telephones me, if she says, "Hello, Linda," I know it's a personal call. If she says, "Hello, Mrs. Burrell," I know it's club business. As expressed in hymns sung this morning, we club women request for the true. We quest for the true. We heed voices of suffering and work for justice. We believe firmly the words in the biblical book of Acts when Paul says, "From one blood all nations were made." Or in the words of Wake Now My Senses, God's love embraces the whole human race, including us. Ashe. Blessed be. The closing hymn will be 331. Life is the greatest gift of all. For closing words, I'll read from UU minister, the late Marjorie Bowens Wheatley. If, recognizing the interdependence of all life, we strive to build community, the strength we gather will be our salvation. If you are black and I am white, it will not matter. If you are female and I am male, it will not matter. If you are older and I am younger, it will not matter. If you are progressive and I am conservative, it will not matter. If you are straight and I am gay, it will not matter. If you are Christian and I am Jewish, it will not matter. If we join spirits as brothers and sisters, the pain of our aloneness will be lessened, and that does matter. In this spirit, we will build community and move toward restoration.
Thank you for coming, everyone. We thank Linda for giving us that wonderful background on Martha Bailey Briggs. Please join us next week for our Easter celebration. Go in peace. Stay strong. We love you. Live long and prosper.